Include Shedeur in this are working extremely hard. We just finished our period after practice that we do every single day. Just finished a red zone 7-on-7 period where Shedeur and the rest of the younger guys are working on 10 reps. So he needs to continue to do exactly what he's been doing and continue to do what all these guys are doing, which is just.
If there were violations, that they won't be tolerated. When we know what those facts are and the impact it has on our game, we'll deal with it very seriously. That the clubs do have the authority to remove an owner from the league.
And be all over him like, well, how come you don't have any confidence? That's why you're not playing. So each man, every man that's not on the football field, every man in the National Football League has to believe that he is good enough.
What if a single comment could cost someone their entire career? That's exactly what's happening right now in the NFL, and it's turning into a full-blown scandal. Rex Ryan, former coach and current analyst, is at the center of a storm after making some harsh remarks about Shedure Sanders. But it's not just internet drama anymore. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has stepped in personally. And his warning? No one's off limits. He's threatening to remove not just coaches, but entire team owners if they're caught behind any kind of smear campaign against Sanders. And that's just the beginning. Because while Ryan rushes to reverse his comments, NFL legends, players, and coaches are all speaking out, and what they're saying might flip this story completely on its head. So what did Rex Ryan really say? Why is Goodell getting involved? And is Shadure Sanders really being unfairly targeted? Let's break it all down.
Make no mistake, Alex, we talked about this yesterday. You said there's 2 first-round picks that they have next year, right?
Yep.
So this is about, let's see what we have. Are one of these guys going to be our quarterback moving forward?
Right.
And to me, look, I was saying something about Shedeur Sanders. And to me, I just know this kid has so much ability.
Rex Ryan isn't exactly known for holding his tongue, but this time, he might have taken it too far. In a recent segment, Ryan fired off on Shedeur Sanders, claiming he hadn't done enough to earn a starting spot over Oklahoma standout Dillon Gabriel. Now, criticism is part of sports, it's expected. But the way Ryan framed his comments raised serious eyebrows. He didn't just critique Sanders' game, he questioned his entire worth as a quarterback. According to Ryan, Shedeur hadn't proved anything. He implied Sanders was being hyped unfairly and even suggested he was riding on his last name rather than actual talent. And that's where things got personal. Because this wasn't just about stats anymore, it turned into a character swipe. Ryan called Sanders overconfident, entitled, and hinted that he's not a team-first player. It was the kind of language that felt loaded, especially given the growing tension around how young black QBs are often portrayed in the media. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Just days earlier, Shadure had wrapped up multiple standout practices during red zone drills. Coaches praised his work ethic. Teammates backed him up. Behind the scenes,
Can't get it done anymore. So bring Shedeur Sanders up with the young kid, the lefty, and now you're first and
Sanders had been doing everything right. So why tear him down now? That's the question fans began asking almost immediately. Social media lit up with criticism, not just for Ryan's tough talk, but the tone of it. Thousands pointed out the double standard. Would another QB with different optics have received the same treatment? Even more curiously, Ryan didn't seem to offer any clear reason why Gabriel deserved the spot more, other than simply saying, he's earned it. The backlash was inevitable. Reporters, fans, and former players weren't holding back. Some labeled the comments tone-deaf, others flat-out called it an attempt to undermine Sanders before he even gets a real shot. And maybe the most telling part of all? Within days, Ryan was already backpedaling. That sudden switch, we'll get to that, but it only made the story snowball even faster. Because once you put a young player under a microscope like that on national television, there's no taking it back. The damage was done.
And when are we going to start realizing that you cannot control people? Some of the same things that people ridicule Shedeur Sanders is also the same things that makes people like Jackson Dart. It's in the eye of the beholder when you're regarding who you're talking about.
And someone else was about to step in. Because while Ryan's comments were stirring up controversy across the league, someone at the very top was watching closely, and he wasn't about to stay silent. Rex Ryan isn't exactly known for holding his tongue, but this time he might have taken it too far. In a recent segment, Ryan fired off on Shadure Sanders, claiming he hadn't done enough to earn a starting spot over Oklahoma standout Dillon Gabriel. Now, criticism is part of sports, it's expected. But the way Ryan framed his comments raised serious eyebrows. He didn't just critique Sanders' game, he questioned his entire worth as a quarterback. According to Ryan, Shedeur hadn't proved anything. He implied Sanders was being hyped unfairly and even suggested he was riding on his last name rather than actual talent. And that's where things got personal. Because this wasn't just about stats anymore, it turned into a character swipe. Ryan called Sanders overconfident, entitled, and hinted that he's not a team-first player. It was the kind of language that felt loaded, especially given the growing tension around how young black QBs are often portrayed in the media. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Just days earlier, Shedeur had wrapped up multiple standout practices during red zone drills. Coaches praised his work ethic. Teammates backed him up. Behind the scenes, Sanders had been doing everything right. So why tear him down now? That's the question fans began asking almost immediately. Social media lit up with criticism not just for Ryan's tough talk, but the tone of it. Thousands pointed out the double standard. Would another QB with different optics have received the same treatment? Even more curiously, Ryan didn't seem to offer any clear reason why Gabriel deserved the spot more other than simply saying he's earned it. The backlash was inevitable. Reporters, fans, and former players weren't holding back. Some labeled the comments tone-deaf, others flat out called it an attempt to undermine Sanders before he even gets a real shot. And maybe the most telling part of all? Within days, Ryan was already backpedaling. That sudden switch, we'll get to that, but it only made the story snowball even faster. Because once you put a young player under a microscope like that on national television, there's no taking it back. The damage was done. And someone else was about to step in. Because while Ryan's comments were stirring up controversy across the league, someone at the very top was watching closely and he wasn't about to stay silent. Just when it seemed like this controversy couldn't get any bigger, it did. Because it wasn't just fans or analysts reacting to Rex Ryan's comments, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell stepped in. And when Goodell gets directly involved, it's usually a sign that things are about to get very serious, very fast. In a rare public statement, Goodell declared that he would be personally investigating the situation surrounding Rex Ryan's remarks targeting Shadure Sanders. But it wasn't just a warning, it was a full-blown message to the entire league. Goodell said that if any NFL club, executive, or team owner is found to be involved in trying to smear or sabotage Sanders' reputation, there would be immediate and severe consequences, including the unthinkable: complete removal from the NFL. Let that sink in. He didn't just call out Ryan, he opened the door to investigating entire ownership groups if there's any sign they were complicit in dragging Sanders down. That level of discipline? Almost unheard of. And it sent shockwaves through the league offices. Because by saying that, Goodell was lifting the curtain on something deeper, that this might not just be about one analyst making an out-of-pocket comment on TV. This could be pointing to a broader campaign happening behind the scenes. Was there more going on than just one man's opinion? The commissioner didn't mention names. He didn't need to. The message was crystal clear. If there's any truth to the idea that Sanders is being targeted, whether for who he is, how he carries himself, or who his father is, it won't be tolerated. Goodell emphasized one thing above all else: fairness. Players will be judged by performance, not politics, not media narratives, and definitely not smear tactics. And the league isn't just protecting Sanders here, it's protecting its future. As up-and-coming talent rises and generational names like Shadure Sanders start taking center stage, the NFL knows it can't have its stars becoming targets of bias, ego, or backroom agendas, especially when those attacks feel targeted and coordinated. So while Rex Ryan's comments got the headlines, it's what happened after that could shape the league for years to come. Because when a commissioner starts talking about kicking owners out of the league, you know this story is far from over. It didn't take long for the league to answer back, and Rex Ryan was directly in the crosshairs. Within hours of his comments airing, the NFL community exploded with outrage. Ryan may have thought he was just giving tough football talk, but what he actually did was light a fuse. And it blew up in his face fast. Michael Irvin, a Hall of Famer and one of the most respected voices in football, didn't hold back. He called Ryan out directly, saying the issue had nothing to do with Shadure's skills and everything to do with how confident young black quarterbacks are constantly picked apart for things others get praised for. Irvin didn't sugarcoat it. He said if Shedeur had stayed quiet, no one would have questioned him. But because he's vocal, confident, and refuses to diminish himself suddenly, he's cocky or entitled. Irvin asked the hard question that others were too afraid to raise. Why does confidence only become a problem for certain players? But it wasn't just Irvin. Cam Newton also jumped into the fire, and his take hit even harder. Newton, who's faced similar criticism throughout his career, made it personal. He said what's happening to Shedeur isn't new, it's just louder now because of the name Sanders. According to Cam, Shedeur's biggest problem isn't his game, it's that some people can't handle a new narrative, one where a young player owns his story, shows confidence, and challenges traditional power dynamics. Cam said it plain. Some of the same traits people celebrate in white quarterbacks, they demonize in black ones. Period. And the fans? They were just as fierce. Threads, tweets, videos, thousands of them flooded the platforms. People began dissecting Ryan's tone, his wording, even clips from past segments to point out inconsistencies or bias. He wasn't just being criticized, he was being exposed. And that's when things shifted. Because after standing firm for a few days, Rex Ryan suddenly flipped. Publicly. Out of nowhere, he started backing Shadure Sanders, singing his praises, calling for him to be given a real shot, acting like he'd been on Shedeur's side the whole time. But here's the thing, it didn't feel real. To a lot of people, it felt like damage control. A desperate attempt to clean up the mess before Goodell or the league made it worse. Because at this point, it wasn't just about football. It was about image, reputation, and whether Ryan had revealed something deeper, the kind of bias that runs unchecked until someone gets called out. And now, with legends weighing in and the public spotlight getting hotter, the question wasn't just whether Ryan apologized. It was whether anyone was buying it. After days of defending his stance, Rex Ryan shocked everyone by flipping the script. Suddenly, the same guy who said Shadure Sanders hadn't earned his spot was now calling for Sanders to start. Not just calling for it, pushing for it. He went live on air urging the Browns to give Shedeur a shot, saying the team should see what they have before next year's draft. Wait, what? This wasn't just a subtle change of opinion, this was a total reversal. Now Ryan was painting himself as someone who wants to invest in young talent. He said starting Sanders wasn't about proving critics wrong, it was about the team's future. According to him, it had nothing to do with controversy, and everything to do with putting faith in the next generation. But here's what's bothering people. If that's how he truly felt, why didn't he say that from the beginning? Where was this invest in the future mindset when he called Sanders overrated, when he downplayed his practice performance, or mocked his leadership and maturity? It's not fooling anybody. The NFL community saw this for what it was, backtracking, a pivot made under pressure, not insight. Because this sudden support didn't come out of nowhere. Let's connect the dots. First, Ryan makes harsh public comments about Sanders. Next, Backlash explodes. Then, Roger Goodell steps in threatening consequences, not just for coaches, but even team owners. And finally, Ryan reverses course. After losing control of the narrative. It all seems a little too convenient. Some analysts have called it damage control disguised as mentorship. Others pointed out this isn't the first time Ryan's made aggressive or controversial takes on young QBs, especially ones with swagger and visibility off the field. But Shadure? He's different. He's not just a player, he's a brand, a Sanders, and part of a movement that makes a lot of old-school voices uncomfortable. So, Ryan's change of heart? Most fans aren't convinced it's coming from a genuine place. And to make it even messier, when pressed about his initial criticism, Ryan didn't actually walk it back. He blamed misinterpretation. He said he was always rooting for Shedeur, just questioning the timing. But when you call someone entitled and unproven on national television, it's not about timing, it's about perception. And once that bell's rung, it can't be unrung. So the bigger question wasn't just whether Rex Ryan flipped. It was, why now? Was it about protecting his public image? Avoiding fallout from the league office? Or was there something else behind the curtain? Because this situation wasn't just about football anymore, it was becoming a case study in how power, pressure, and public opinion collide in real time. Let's be honest, this never really felt like it was just about football. Because while Rex Ryan's comments sparked controversy and Roger Goodell's response raised the stakes, the real question still lingers in everyone's mind. Why is Shedeur Sanders being targeted in the first place? He's not out here throwing tantrums. He's not ghosting practices. He's not on social media taking cheap shots at teammates. By all accounts, he's showing up, putting in work, crushing red zone reps, and doing exactly what coaches are telling him to do. So, why the hate? According to NFL insiders like Cam Newton and Michael Irvin, the answer is bigger than touchdowns or timing. It's about narrative. Shadure isn't just a young quarterback. He's confident, visible, the son of a Hall of Famer. And maybe, most disruptive of all, he knows his worth. He has swagger. He's media savvy. He talks about himself like he belongs, and to some people in the NFL world, especially the old guard, that confidence doesn't look like leadership. It looks like ego. And therein lies the problem. When quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield or Johnny Manziel talk themselves up, the media calls it fire. When Joe Burrow rocks designer sunglasses and calls himself a killer, it's swagger. But when Shedeur Sanders says he's better than most college quarterbacks, suddenly he's arrogant. The double standard is loud, and people are finally calling it out. Cam Newton said it best. The thing people criticize Shedeur for are the same things they celebrate in other players. And he's not wrong. What's being labeled as cockiness from Sanders is, in reality, the same kind of self-belief that fans demand from elite athletes. But when it comes packaged in confidence, charisma, and a last name that comes with legacy pressure, it rubs people the wrong way. There's also the shadow of his father, Deion Sanders, looming large. People don't just think Shedeur has something to prove, they think he has something to prove because he's a Sanders. Like every snap he takes carries extra weight or entitlement, and no matter what he does, it's not quite earned. But is that fair? If anything, Shedeur has had to work twice as hard to prove he isn't riding coattails. His film shows accuracy, discipline, and poise. His training reports say he's sharp, focused, and eager. None of that has stopped the avalanche of criticism. And that's why this whole story hits deeper than most media beefs. Because it shines a spotlight on who gets to be seen as a leader in the NFL and who doesn't. Who is allowed to be loud and who is told to stay quiet. These aren't just debates about playing time, they're culture wars in cleats. So, maybe the problem isn't Shadure Sanders. Maybe the problem is the system that keeps making him a target. At this point, it's obvious this isn't just another NFL drama. It's bigger than a sideline debate, bigger than public backlash. This controversy is peeling back the layers of something much deeper about how the NFL operates and who really controls the narrative. When Roger Goodell stepped in and dropped the bombshell that even team owners could be removed if they're found complicit in a smear campaign, it wasn't just a warning shot. It was a direct challenge to the old power structure inside the NFL. Because let's be real, when was the last time you heard the commissioner even hint at taking down an owner? That's sacred ground. Those are the untouchables. So for Goodell to make a public statement like that, it sends a very clear message. The league is being watched. And the days of backroom control and unchecked media agendas? They might be numbered. This isn't just about protecting Shedeur Sanders. It's about redefining what fairness looks like in a billion-dollar machine that often hides behind tradition and football culture. And that's terrifying for some people. It means that analysts, coaches, owners, people who've always shaped the narrative might finally be held accountable when they weaponize opinions to tear down rising talent, especially when it's done under the guise of critique. But here's what makes this story so explosive. It's not just that Rex Ryan made harsh comments, it's that those comments exposed an entire system built to control how certain players are seen. Young, black quarterbacks who walk with confidence, they're a threat to that system. Players from high-profile families who aren't afraid to speak boldly, they don't fit the mold. And when the system can't control them, it turns them into villains. That's what we're seeing with Shedeur, because when a player refuses to shrink himself to make others comfortable, the league tilts. It forces everyone, media, ownership, even fans to reconsider how we define leadership, respect, and merit. So when people say this is just Rex being Rex, or it's just football talk, they're missing the bigger picture. This feud cracked open a much-needed conversation. What voices have too much power? What players are expected to stay in their lane? Who gets the benefit of the doubt and who gets tested harder every step of the way? And maybe most importantly, when a player like Shedeur Sanders rises, how far will the system go to keep him in check? Because right now, this isn't just about one controversy, it's about whether the entire league is ready to evolve. And the next move? It could change everything. So let's take a step back and look at everything we've just unpacked. A high-profile analyst publicly tears down a rising quarterback, one who's done nothing but show up, follow the program, and back up his name with real work. The NFL community fires back, legends speak out, fans break the silence. And then, in a move no one saw coming, the commissioner himself steps in, not just to defend a player, but to put entire franchises on notice. This isn't normal. This isn't the NFL just letting it play out. This is leadership stepping into the storm and finally asking some of the questions fans have been shouting for years. Why do some players get patience and others get picked apart? Why does confidence get celebrated in one QB, but labeled as arrogance in another? And most of all, who's really in control of the narrative? And who's tired of being silenced by it? Rex Ryan's flip-flop may have quieted the headlines for now, but the deeper issues aren't going anywhere. The truth is, Shadure Sanders was never just fighting for respect on the field, he's been fighting for it off the field too. Against whispers, against double standards, against voices in power trying to define him before he gets his shot to define himself. So now it's your move. What do you think? Was Roger Goodell right to step in? Is Rex Ryan genuinely trying to support Sanders now, or just saving face? Do you think Shedeur is being unfairly targeted, or is this just the business of the NFL? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're reading all of them. And if you found this insightful, controversial, or even just eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a deep dive like this. Because stories like this, they aren't just about football. They're about the system, the voices trying to reshape it, and the players bold enough to challenge it.